Training to be a street cop.
Hey guys, welcome to this episode of Street Cop Training Podcast. I'm your host, founder, and CEO of Street Cop Training. My name is Dennis Benino, and today it's questions. Hopefully I can answer some of them from group members from our Street Cop Training Facebook group for law enforcement only. So the first person we're going to bring up is Chris. I don't know if you want to say your last name. It's up to you. If you want to remain anonymous, give us the 30 seconds of who you are, and then go with your question.
Yeah, I have no problem saying my name. My name is Chris Somjan. I've known you for almost 8 years now, Dennis. Proud to say I went to one of your first classes. Congratulations on all your success.
Thanks, sweetie.
Yeah, no problem, man. I work in a very small 13-man department, northern New Jersey, Morris County. I don't want to say names because I am working. I'm not representing them in any way. But first thing I want to say, obviously, I texted you just to give some context like 6 months ago. It was something to the effect, it was pretty arrogant and naive. I was like, hey, man, I just want to let you know I'm getting promoted. I can't wait to do big things for my department and make all these changes. I understand I'm only one person. So it was very naive of me to think that. But that's my attitude going into it because I love the job. I'm fortunate. I'm an FTO here, and I've had the opportunity to train almost half our department. Shout out to all my guys. They've been to all your classes. They revere you like a god. It's kind of funny. But as an FTO, I try not to only train them in the job. I also try to teach them kind of life lessons that have led to my successes and failures, but also how to maintain healthy life-work balance, a successful career, and just to be a better person overall. So my question to you is, I'm picking an arbitrary number. What are like 3 life lessons you wish you could go back and teach your younger self to avoid you having to suffer through them that made you a better person or officer?
Things that I've learned now that probably nobody ever taught me before that I've learned at the age of 40 versus when I was 19 when I started. You want lessons like life lessons or like life lessons related to the job?
Either or, both. Like, I think it's important to kind of teach the younger officers both because I think they do correlate and one affects the other.
Okay, I got a few. The first one is judgment. You need to analyze and try to test yourself to see how much judgment you possess of other people. It's very easy to get sucked into the toxic environment of people casting judgment of other people. And it goes back to my theory of when somebody's in the hopper, an IA hopper, what kind of person are you to that person who is in the hopper? Are you the type of person that is now shunning them for the next 3 to 4 weeks until they eventually get whatever discipline's coming their way and then return as your coworker and pretend you're their friend again? Or are you the type of person that says, hey, if you need anything, let me know. I'm here for you. I could have been that person just as much as you were. As a matter of fact, there are things that I did that I'm not proud of, and I'm thankful that I didn't get caught or get accused of doing those things. So judgment. It's very easy for us to sit on a high horse when we're not in the hopper. But I got to tell you, when you get a good internal cooking and you're the subject of that internal and you're the target of that internal, you're going to know very well what that's going to feel like. And it is not a fun feeling. And you may have a different opinion about what you believed that person was about or what they did and what made them do what they did. So back off of that one is my second one is that's compassion. So compassion to recognize that really employing a lot of compassion, recognizing that people may be acting a certain way because of other events in their life that they haven't voiced to the world or you have no idea about. So in class, I'll say to people, I don't know what you're going through and you don't know what I'm going through. And to look at me on the surface, you think I'd have it all figured out, but you don't know what's going on in my life. And I have a million problems just like everybody else does. But I've employed a discipline to show up and be a professional when I need to be. And as unprofessional as I may seem, goofing around at times, I have had, it's funny, recently when I came into this office a couple of weeks ago, something had happened in my life in the morning. And Jess who and my VP Becca said, I was going to do a podcast in 10 minutes. He's never going to be able to do it today. He just had the most fucked up morning there is. And I walked in and they said, you want us to cancel the podcast? I said, no, I'm going to do it. They go, you had a bad morning. I went, I understand, but I'm a professional. So I could have a bad morning, but I'm walking in and I can adjust that switch. That's a cool one for work too. Recognizing that you need to table some of your shit at the door or don't go to work. So if you can't pivot in that kind of position, I would suggest maybe staying out of work that day because we don't want to come off as unprofessional, do something that is outside of your normal character. But compassion's important, man. So what type of person are you? The type of person that says to somebody like, hey, is everything okay? Right. I realize that you were late like 3 times in the past month, brother. I don't want to see you get jammed up. Like, anything I can help you with? Is everything okay? Yeah, find out. So I always think about that. Like, why is somebody acting the way they do? And what you find out is people are getting their butts kicked. So you could ask yourself, where's the hurt? Where's the pain? And stop thinking everybody has the same brain you do. I made that mistake for a lot of years. I'm somebody that's very unaffected by a lot of things. And when I am, it's usually just sleeping it off, and I wake up like $1 million again. So I'm fortunate for that. So that's 2, judgment, compassion. And I think 3 is doing the right thing every single time. And I think I knew this one, but I want to pass it along. Doing the right thing by people, even if it means at the moment you're getting less, will get you more in the future. So selfless behavior, doing the right thing, and thinking of others before you think of yourself. And on top of that, doing more for others than they expect you to do. And it's these kind, simple gestures that don't take much that get people to remember what kind of a human being you are. And I think not only in police work is this going to go far, but I think in life that goes far. Those are my 3, Chris. I don't know if that was a good answer.
Those are awesome, man. I appreciate it. I couldn't agree more.
And just so everybody knows, Chris, we did a video years ago, promo video I did, and Chris came in and
I was hoping we could forget about that, but yeah, okay, go ahead, bring it up.
No. Like, dude, I think that like these are the things in like the time capsule that we'll bring back like 10 years from now and be like, here's the first video we did for like a promotional thing.
Can I just have like 1 second? Because I just want to. It's kind of funny, right? Because when I first went to your class, I was literally 6 months out of FTO. I had no idea what the heck I was doing. So you kind of put me on the path, right, to being a good police officer. In the last year, going through the promotional process and now being a supervisor, I'm kind of having to change hats. I still love being a cop and being out there and hitting it on the road with my guys, but I also have to, be there to support them and give them what they need. So I'm needing to learn like a whole new facet and job. So instead of watching like necessarily the Kenny Williams videos, now I'm watching like Tom Rizzo. And I was in a course that he was an instructor in, and he's like now a new role model and someone I'm trying to aspire and learn from. So you kind of got to adjust as you progress in your career. Don't forget who you are, but also you got to realize you got to change. You can't just be static and be the same person over 20 years because other people are now depending on you and relying upon you.
When you started speaking on this podcast, this episode, you said that you wanted to change the world as a supervisor. Do you remember what I said to you when you texted me and said, what's your advice? Remember what I wrote back to you?
I don't even recall off the top of my head, dude.
I'm actually going to go into our text because I think you texted it to me.
I remember later on that day, you mentioned it and you did one of those quick little videos when you were driving in your car.
Yes. That's right. I did it off of. Yeah. Let me pull up what I said to you. I'm quite sure it was in a text. You said, hey, brother, I was just reaching out, congratulating everything. Kimmy did this. I know that I'm going to get promoted. Cool. I said, whoa, Sergeant Somjan. It's awesome, man. Thanks for all this week. Congrats. Well deserved. What I said was take care of everyone real well. And that's your first move. Yeah, that's your first move is to what's the game plan? Well, I'm the boss. So what does that mean? That means I'm going to make life as comfortable and as easy for these people who go out and do the toughest job in the world every single day. And that's where you could really start. And that's where you can really change things. There's a saying that I like. It says, it was by Mother Teresa. It says, you really want to change the world, go home and love your family. And if you think about that, it's an interesting quote. And it really, once you start to internalize and unwrap that, it's amazing what that really means. And it means that you're creating more good for the world. You know what I mean? And you don't have to do it by trying to change everybody. But the 2 or 3 kids you have may end up being better adults, and they might spawn off 5 kids who are great adults.
I always try to remember that, I'm very careful when I speak and when I say they don't work for me. I work for them. And that's my ultimate goal, is to train them up and for them to be the next future leaders, sergeants, lieutenants, chiefs of police, whatever, or just, great human being overall, whatever I can do to set them up for that success. So I've keeping that in the back of my head. I appreciate everything you do, man. I don't want to take any more of your time.
And you know what, Chris, the last thing I have to say is like you're a prime example of the seeds we're planting, because here's somebody that we were able to get our hands on early, and you're a friend of mine. And we were able to instill all this in you, and things will now be better. So it's that Mother Teresa thing again, and it's proof that you're carrying forward what a sergeant should be. You know what I mean? And that's happening. That's happening in 100x now, which is great. So that's it, man. That's all I got. I appreciate you taking time to be on here with me, brother.
No problem, man. Thank you.
I know you want a donation soon. I know. Just text me.
I wasn't going to bring it up on the air, but whatever.
Yeah,
but
I know. You guys need to finance you
man.
playing friggin' golf and playing cornhole and your white claws.
Yeah, well, it's part of the
Why donate
part
to
of
the
the
people
job,
that I donate to Ukraine and all that other stuff that I donate to and fallen police. Let me finance a party for 13 drunk cops.
No, man, go ahead and you donate that to the people that really need that. We don't need it, man. We're good.
I'm kidding with you, dude. But I'll donate to all of it.
Man. Thanks, man. I love you. Take care.
Yeah, man. Love you too. See you. Am I allowed to say that name? If not, we can edit it from the podcast.
Hey, it's Josh. I just had some technical issues in the country and wasn't able to get on the Zoom call. So
it's okay.
We made it work.
Fire away with your questions. Well, first off, Josh, give us your 30 seconds of who you are, as much as you want to.
Okay. All right. I work in North Carolina in a small agency in a suburb of Raleigh. I work on a traffic unit, also FTO, and on a tactical team, and been on the job for about 5 years. I got two questions for you, Dennis. The first one is, as an FTO, and kind of segueing from the first guy's question, is we're trying to incorporate more proactive focused stuff into our field training program. This is all kind of at the FTO level right now, not the coordinating level. But do you have any recommendations for that? Obviously, where we're doing kind of the walk, crawl, walk, run for trainees, to do more towards the end of their training cycle. But if you had any recommendations.
I don't think that you have to essentially do a walk, crawl, run thing. I think that it's just an exposure to good police work. So don't get too caught up in like, let's take it slow in the beginning. Like, I think you could jump right into it. I think you got to prioritize what's important at first. And you know how it is as a field training officer, right? Sometimes you walk in and like, of course I'm the hard charge. I want to go out. We're going to stop cars. We're going to search cars. We're going to find drugs and guns and bad guys and bring people with big time warrants into headquarters and car chase and all that stuff. But like, man, I take it as it comes. So sometimes I walk in, the guy's like, oh my God, you're my field training officer. This is great. I heard so many things. And I'm like, yeah, we're going to have fun. But there's a walk-in leaky bag of shit domestic that you got to do one of these. So let's take it now. I didn't want to defer that. We'll take that. As far as proactivity, man, it's such an important stage of somebody's career in field training, and it does mold who they're going to be. You can even take somebody who's lazy and get them excited to do proactive police work in that stage. So I think really understanding what proactive means in a sense, understanding that everybody is not going to be a hard charger, and some people don't have the IQ and the brain capacity to go out and do really, really thoughtful, good police work. What they can learn from you, even that proactive part, is professionalism, compassion, non-judgment. All that stuff's important for cops now to be taught, because it'll help them really deal with situations and start to dilute and whittle away at the toxic environment that we find ourselves at these police agencies. We're like, instead of saying, oh, here's Mary, this fucking shitty families here all the time, how did they end up here? How did they end up here? So teaching some of that stuff as well. When you say proactivity, like, what are you guys trying to get at? What's the end goal of it? Like, you want guys to go out and do what?
I would just say, obviously, my team, we're after the three main food groups, drugs, guns, and money. But I guess that as a whole, we're the guys who are, in the group from my agency, who are the proactive guys who actually go out there and do work. We're trying to change the kind of the ethos of our agency, whereas it was more of the take your calls and keep it quiet for a long time. But the agency is getting younger, and our hiring tempo is really fast. So I think we hired 7 so far this year. So we're just trying to change that culture. And as all the, kind of your middle experience level FTOs are kind of trying to come together and have something that we can present to the coordinator saying, hey, we want to get these guys out here doing this, that, or the other, as opposed to say, hey, for phase 4, I want you to have 10 stops and 10 tickets, which I think is BS.
Right, I agree. I think you need to get your administration on board and make that the culture, because I think when you walk into a place and being a bum is the oddball, the culture falls in place. The problem is most places you go to, being proactive is the oddball. However, I did work at agencies or an agency where being proactive got you things. Not very common. I understand that. And you couldn't progress in your career without being proactive. So I think at some point you guys can do as much as you can, but the culture shift has to come from the administration as well. So I think it's a conversation of like, what are you guys looking to do with these new guys? Are you trying to create call takers? And we have a real opportunity here with 7 new minds to mold them into being some profound, accomplishing police officers. I think if you could sell it to them, and this is how we do things here, and it's exciting, and they like it, because I think everybody, no matter who you are, likes to do exciting police work when you're a cop. I don't think, maybe now these guys have been seasoned and salty, and they're I'm talking when you're new, everybody wants to come out. I don't care who you are. Nobody doesn't want to go and do cool shit, So show them the cool shit. Show them what you guys do,
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, that's what I've been trying to get them into as much as possible.
You got to sell it. You got to sell it to the new guys. This is who we are. We want you to be one of us. This is fun stuff. The administration likes it. If you want a future here, you got to be one of these guys or girls, right? Things like that, man. I think it can go as far as it can with you guys, and then it's going to have to kind of spill over into the administration's lap to try to influence and encourage that. And you're going to have to sell them on that,
Sure. I had one more question if I have time.
Yeah, for sure, man. Do it.
And this actually came from one of my rookies that I have right now. I asked him if he had any questions for you, because I've talked about you in the program and all that. So his question was kind of getting clarification, and I'm not sure if this is going to be state-based or not, but again, we are in North Carolina. Obviously, you establish probable cause for a vehicle. How does that translate into establishing probable cause to search occupants? He was wondering that.
So there's a case called United States v. D. Ree, and I'll have to unpack this a little bit. So D. Ree comes out of the 40s, and it's a gas I think it's the 40s or the early 50s. It comes out of a gas rationing case, and what essentially one of the main factors they talked about the U.S. Supreme Court in 53 or whatever it was, 54. I'm trying to rack my brain a little bit to figure out the year. It's irrelevant. It's United States v. D-Re, D-I-R-E. And what the United States said was, just because you have PC to search a car doesn't mean you have PC to search people. So there are times that some states have adopted with the smell of marijuana will give you probable cause to search somebody. So I don't know if North Carolina subscribes to this. I can't recall because I haven't taught there in about a year. I think the last time I was there was in May of 2021. And I teach a lot of different programs. But there are other ways to go about searching somebody when you want to search them. And the first one is consent. So if you're in a situation where you're looking to search somebody, getting consent to lawfully search somebody within confines of the U.S. Constitution, following your voluntary consent guidelines based on previous case law when other police officers perform this is going to be what you want to pay attention to so you can conform what the law dictates was permissible. Understanding the difference between pat frisks, PC searches, and searches incident to arrest, that's important as well. In my course, I talk about canine alerts, and I'll say to people like, hey, do you think a canine alert on a vehicle establishes probable cause to search people who are inside the vehicle or were inside the vehicle? And people say, yeah, we do it all the time. Like, you can't do that. Not as a PC search, and almost never as a PC search. There have been very few exceptions in some of the state's case law that I've read. But what it may establish is probable cause to arrest somebody and search that incident to arrest. But again, you'd have to take the training for me to really dissect and explain how that applies and how that works. But knowing that what your limitation is and you know, it's not ways around it. It's about conforming to what we're allowed to do. So yeah, I'm urging you not to do anything illegal. And the more he spends time training, listening to this podcast, taking courses where there's an instructor who's understanding case law and can translate it well into a situation where somebody can conceptualize how to apply it in the field, that's important stuff. So tell him to invest into himself. But no, PC to search a car does not transform into PC to search occupants, not as a bright line rule. There are going to be exceptions, but in order to know what all of those are, you'd have to read case law. Does that satisfy the answer? I want to make sure you're feeling good about that one.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the gist of what I had told him as well. And we're actually, as an agency, I'm trying to push, and I've already presented to my administration to have Jeff Smith come and host Street Academy. And hopefully we'll start a pattern of hosting classes if we get all our ducks in a row.
Yeah.
So
yeah, man, check out the, go to the website, streetcop.com, and then click the link that says host training, and we'll go from there.
Right.
Hey, brother.
Thank you,
pleasure
Dennis.
meeting you, man. Thank you so much for the continued support. And I appreciate you so much, bro. Be safe out there. And I just want to give you this piece of advice. Treat every motor vehicle stop and every moment of this job as if it will take your life. And you'll probably survive. Doesn't mean you have to be a Nazi. It just means you have to be aware and don't let your guard down while you're working. And unfortunately, that's part of the deal.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
All right, brother. Pleasure. I will do, I think Ben was first one to the podcast. So, Ben, you're up next.
Hey, man. My name's Ben. I'm a deputy with a small sheriff's department in Illinois. First of all, I love your shit.
Thanks, man.
I met you last week in St. Louis. That was awesome.
Oh, I know who you are now. I recognize your face,
yeah,
dude. I'm sorry.
Yeah, dude. No, it's all good.
You got the hat on.
Damn Skippy.
Thanks. What'd you think of class?
I loved it.
You had a good class.
I loved it.
A good group.
I'd been up for like 30 hours by the time we left, and I was still wide awake.
It's awesome, dude.
Only time in my career I can say that that's ever happened.
Oh, it's awesome, bro. Thank you.
Yeah, it was fantastic, man. My question for you, it is not related to my department by any means, but what's some advice for like a younger officer who feels like they're kind of trapped by a state's attorney's policy by like, oh, well, if you don't do the Trooper 2-step, we're not accepting the charges. Oh, you used consent search and you didn't do that. Yeah, we're not accepting that.
So
things along those lines.
I think proof is in the pudding. So I think the first step is to really get your ducks in a row of explaining what it means to get lawful voluntary consent and how that's not a factor that the courts will consider when you can fix or conform to the Fourth Amendment on so many other levels, namely communication and based on not only collecting precedent in case law, but also every person you know in other counties of like, they don't do it here. 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 Why are we doing it here? And the answer is because somebody did it once, they liked it, and now people are used to it. Doesn't mean it's right. The second thing before you even approach a district attorney's office is you've got to get your administration on board, because the only people who can really have significant impact if you're going to fall flat on your face is your chief of police, your heads of these agencies, to go to them and say, we've done our research. You know, actually, these kind of techniques are frowned upon by a lot of states, and sell your case to them. But they've got to be willing to listen. The Trooper 2-step is like literally, I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's just an unnecessary gesture, and dictated by Ohio v. Robinette, 1996. You do not have to tell somebody they're free to leave in order to get a lawful consent. Matter of fact, every consent is based on one overall macro factor, and it's how you're communicating to somebody with the rules of consent, how you're communicating that where they understand it, comprehend it, and giving a knowing and voluntary consent procedure. And I'll toss in intelligent as well, right? So an intelligent response, which means, can you get consent from a guy who is a 2-3 on a traffic stop? He's DWI and he's fucking vomiting next to your police car. And the answer is no. But you might get a guy who's a professional alcoholic who's a 2-3, or maybe somebody who's an illicit narcotic user who may do a couple bags of heroin a day to stay normal, They may fail field sobriety, or drug recognition expert tests, but they're
Right.
cognitive. So that's intelligent is an important factor to consider when you're obtaining a lawful consent procedure. That's it, dude. People ask that question all the time. I know it's frustrating,
Yeah.
but you're going to have to get your ducks in a row first and get ready to go and explain things. And hopefully they have at least thoughtfulness and an open mind to hear. They don't like to hear they're wrong, dude. And unfortunately, they're wrong a lot. Did that feel like it resolves your question?
Yeah, man. I think so.
I think it's the only way
It's
to do it.
obviously a tough situation that a lot of people find themselves in, and it sucks that it is that way sometimes.
It is a profession that makes no sense, and it's frustrating when you have a brain and common sense. It's a frustrating profession, dude. Like a lot, like you come. I was just talking about this today. You come into this profession, and you would think it would be based on merit, hard work, and all this, and that has no relevance. Sometimes it does, but rarely. And you don't even know how to play the game. What are the rules of this game? If I want to get ahead and want to get things and how do you play this game? There's no rules. They're made up day by day. So there's no actual guidelines of how to play this game to advance yourself in your career. And all you got to do is try to figure it out. I mean, it's frustrating for people who are winners. You know what I mean? To be a winner in a game where being a winner doesn't matter is a frustrating thing.
Yeah.
Like don't let it stray people's focus. Like once you can release a lot of that BS of you trying to play this game, and the game you start playing is now, who am I as this police officer, and what am I doing for the world today? That's a better game to play, dude, because you can play for your awards in your brain, not the one that's a banquet dinner and you're like, why is this motherfucker getting a life-saving award for giving CPR to a 93-year-old woman? Like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? Like, I was asked years ago to join an organization, and because I got a gun on a traffic, and this guy who I worked with, God rest his soul, was on the E-board there, so the executive board. He wanted to become the president of the organization, so he wanted to get support from people that knew him. He's like, I'm going to get you into this club. I said, for what? He goes, for finding a gun. I go, I found a gun. He goes, it's like life-saving. You save lives in the future. I go, I will join your club when I jump into a river and pull kids from a school bus. What can the organization stand for if you're giving these things away like they're candy? So, there's a lot of not rhyme or reason, and you got to release yourself from that stress and just say, I'm doing what I can do. I'm trying to do it the best way I can, diplomatically, communicating well. So, Ben, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming on here and doing this with me today.
Thank you, man.
Of course, brother. We'll do Isaac. You're going to be last. I'm sorry, dude. We're going to do Justin. Justin on the Zoom is just pondering out the window.
How you doing? Thank you for having me on tonight.
Thank you for being here, bro. I appreciate you wearing the sweatshirt. Thank you so much, dude.
My question was more for the nighttime interdiction. So I heard a couple of your podcasts, and I listen to them while I'm at work too. But the problem I'm running into is I just don't see how Brad, Rob, and Kenny are seeing down the road at these cars. I know someone brought up binoculars, but I can't imagine binoculars are really useful at night. And also, it's not a well-lit area. Other than those people passing me at that 3-second point where they see the lights and I see them with my takedowns on, what else can I do to observe their behavior?
I'm going to defer this question because I know there are better answers than the ones that I have. And those better questions are for Kenny Williams, Brad Gilmore, Rob Ferrero. Frankie, who's our new podcast producer, is sitting here listening to it. He's going to write a note. And Justin, we'll have you back on, and we'll have Kenny, Rob, and Brad answer those questions. Maybe we'll do a panel episode, and we'll have you come on. We'll make it a top priority. As a matter of fact, maybe we'll even work around your schedule to make sure you can be on that so you can pose that question again. Or we'll save that question. I have an answer for it, but they have better answers for it. And I don't want to give an opinion when I know there's a better opinion out there.
Yeah, that's fine. I've listened to some of your podcasts and those are godsend. I appreciate what you do for us.
Thanks, man.
They definitely, especially Rob's class in 2021, I took it down in Texas. I was down there with the National Guard on the border, and we heard about Street Cop and word of mouth, and I started listening to your podcast. And it's a world of a difference from before I went to the border and saw you guys to now. My quality of traffic stops have gone up. Not the quantity, but the quality of them. I'm not pulling over people for the headlights, inspection stickers, you know, all the silly things that everyone thinks is God's work. And, you know, it's just one of those things where I'm just trying to get better at the whole, because I see what I think is the behavior, but then I'm kind of like, I don't want to say second guessing myself. I'm like, it really, that could just be someone taking a drink and just wiping their face or something, like, so.
I think the only
I
answer,
did have one more question.
I'm going to jump in real quick and say, you will get better at this with the more training you take. And this is not a plug for me to promote my company, but you know, people have the option to take on-demand training right now for almost every course that we offer. So continue to train. And by the way, in all humility, there are other training companies out there that do a fantastic job as well. And I would love to have some of those guys on my team, but I don't have them on my team because they have their own companies. They do their own thing, you know, and it's their thing. And I'm just thankful that they're friends of mine. Wonderful, wonderful human beings. Take their classes as well. You'll hear those guys on future podcast episodes as we're guys like Mike Connor and Bauer Brown. And I'm not purposely leaving anybody out, but there's a lot of talent out there. You know, so take more training. Your answers sometimes lie even in a nugget or two out of a course. You might take a 6-7 hour course and go, you know, I kind of knew most of this, but I took a few nuggets out and just piece all that shit together, dude, nonstop. I mean, I'm in so many books and so many podcasts myself personally for my professional level of being an entrepreneur and CEO and all that stuff. And I'm just now this mashup, this blended version of all these people. We're able to navigate and understand things a lot more because I'm hearing so many different perspectives on it. Go with your second question, Justin.
So when you're reviewing case law, what part are you, because I remember listening to you and Zach Miller talking, and he said there was a case that was like 100 pages long. What section do we need as officers to really say, hey, this is what the judge said, and these are the good things? Because like in Massachusetts, we have some of our own books, and the author does a really good job of breaking it down. But sometimes it's not broken down to the point where, oh, the judge really wanted this, not personal opinion. So what section should we look for when reviewing case law?
Well, the one thing I want to tell you is this, is that I know people who read case law but don't understand case law. And if people profess to me that they read case law, it's a little tricky, but you can get good at it with time. So you've got to practice and read it nonstop. And I would go beyond even what these little Cliff Note books say to really try to deep dive. So essentially, you have to know about 100 to 150 base cases out of the U.S. Supreme Court to see then where they're going with it in your state, especially in Massachusetts. So you've got to know the U.S. Supreme Court stuff first, and then see how your state is going with it and what they're trying to make a point of. So you'd have to know, like, here's one. I had a guy and I'm not picking on him if he's listening to the thing. I went to a class in the Midwest, and he said, you know, in this state, we don't follow U.S. v. Ross 1982. They've denounced it, and you have to go for a warrant when you find a locked or closed item or like a safe in a car. And I said, yeah, that's interesting. I did the research here, and it was in Iowa. I said, man, I didn't see anything like that. So what case are you referring to? And he said, this is the case. I go, okay, on the next break, I'm going to send it over to Zach. I'm going to read it, and we'll give you our interpretation of it, because we're not entitled to an opinion. There's only an interpretation. There's no opinion about it. And so we brought it back over and got him on the phone. It's actually two topics that he wanted to discuss. And he didn't understand what they were arguing. How the case was argued wasn't under Ross. It was argued as search incident to arrest of the vehicle. And as a matter of fact, he missed a line at the end that said, had this been argued under U.S. v. Ross, we would have came up with a different verdict, but it wasn't. So I said, you see, you misinterpreted it there. It was a mistake by the prosecution who didn't know what they were doing when they argued this case. If it was argued under Ross, it would have been a case. So what does that tell me? This searching locked and closed items with probable cause in a traffic stop or whatever it may be in an automobile exception is still acceptable in your state when it's applied through Ross, but not a search incident to arrest in this circumstance. And he looked at me, I go, are you telling people in your agency that they have to go for warrants? And he's like, yeah. I go, yeah, unfortunately, you're wrong. And, he put a little pushback, and Zach's like, yeah, no, you're 100% right, Dennis. That's exactly what I was going to say. And So he was reading case law, but he wasn't getting it. Sometimes it's better, Zach said in one of the podcast episodes, sometimes it's better just to come to he's got a case law class coming up there in Massachusetts. Sometimes it's better to ask Zach about it or listen to him talk about it for a day. But I don't want to dissuade you from trying to read it because it may start to click. But dude, it at first you're like, oh, cool. Got, like, right? Sometimes I can read case law and they'll give a brief in the beginning, the first couple paragraphs. But it depends what the topic is. So it's usually the most important stuff is in the top and at the bottom. But if you don't know what the middle means, you will. I can almost, like, when people are like, oh, did you see this thing that came out? And I'm like, yeah, no, I know. Tell me the gist of it. They're like, well, these guys, yeah, I already know where they fucked up. I've read enough. I know exactly where they went wrong. And I can almost guarantee if I read it, it's exactly what it's going to say. And I'm right almost 100% of the time. But dude, I've been reading it. What year is this? 2022. I've been reading it for 14 years. And I read 5-6 hours. And by the way, I don't even read enough of it. Zach reads like 6 hours a day for the past 17 years. And he's a lawyer, right? I read probably 6 hours of it a week, usually on Sundays, and usually when I'm writing programs for other states. Because it has shifted for me where I am now running this company more than being in this company as an instructor. And a lot of people recognize that I am dialing back how much I'm actually on the road because I do a better job serving the world in this office and putting out more instructors and more information constantly than 112 guys in a training course. I know that stuff's important. And what's going to happen in the future is people are going to have to make a stride to try to get to our training programs. It's just not going to be as convenient for everybody, even if it's inconvenient now. It'll probably be 12 to 14 to 16 classes annually in places that are closer to big cities nationally. So does that make sense? I hope that helps you understand it, dude. What I could say is if you're getting...
No, it does.
Yeah. If you're getting the Cliff Notes version in those little books, go on to casetext.com or Google Scholar and read the whole thing and find out what they mean by it. So sometimes like under Pennsylvania v. Mims, they said da-da-da. And you're like clicking Mims, like, what did they say in Mims? Mims was an exit order for a driver. And then Mims, then they're citing Maryland v. Wilson. You're like, oh, Mims, that was the Mims rule extended to the passengers of the vehicle. And the same principles apply. Okay. But again, you'd have to know that if you're reading cases out of Massachusetts that talks about what is required for an exit order, which in Massachusetts is reasonable suspicion. You're like one of the only states, if maybe the only state that requires that more than nothing to request or command that exit order from a passenger or driver of the vehicle. So
yeah, we have 4 reasons to pull someone out of a car. So it's the what is it for officer safety?
You know what I'm going to tell you right now? Don't even try to recite them because you're going to fuck people up. And if you're not right, you're going to confuse motherfuckers. So don't even do it. Okay. Just that's why people always ask, why do you turn off commenting in the group? Because we don't want to pontificate and theoretically come up with some ideas of what we think it is. Yep. We need actual hard truth. So I don't want to confuse anybody on that. I just want to give. Okay. If you notice in these podcasts, brother, I mean, I really don't try to project opinions. I don't take political positions. And if I think I have something to offer, I hand it over and say, this is what I've learned. Like Chris's question to me. Maybe some people find value in compassion, judgment, all those things. So, hey, Justin, brother, I can't thank you enough for being on the podcast, dude. It means a lot to me.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. All right, Isaac, I know you've been waiting over there patiently.
No, the truth is it's great that I'm going last because when we started the podcast, I was going to rant and rave about all the problems in my department and this and that because I work for a huge agency. But I'm in California.
Yeah, there you
go. Just tell you that. So when I approached the training department about having you come, they were like, we got a good training department. Why not? Why do we have to change that? So I just want to introduce a little bit of, I'm in SoCal, Southern California. So I do have that great conference you guys held in what's it called, down in Southern California not too long ago. I'm like, hey, look, they did it. Why not us? So the main reason I bring that up is more of an admin question for you. I've been about 8 years. And I started in 2015, so I haven't been too long, right? And so I'm on our SRT team. I'm part of our human trafficking division. We have a lot. Like I'm the only Samoan you'll ever meet that speaks Chinese. I'm fluent in Mandarin Chinese. And I'm not here to laundry list everything that I've done in my career, but I've approached a point where when you do report misconduct, and going back to the IA thing, when you do report misconduct and how they treat you as a reporter, as a rat or something like that, there's all sorts of hassling they do. How can we encourage our new guys to continue to do the right thing?
Well, when you say encourage misconduct, I think there is, I have to dig into that a little bit and say, is it misconduct in the sense that you feel like it's criminal, or is it petty stuff and you're being a dick?
Well, I can go into it. It happened years
you don't
ago.
go into too much because I don't want to get anybody in trouble and draw a lot of attention. But, like I think that there has to be leeway and trust a little bit that people are going to make mistakes. Obviously, you can't turn a blind eye to intentional continued misconduct. But just like your administration has to give a blessing to mistakes being made, or, you have to have that bearing as well to understand that, like, okay, this person didn't come from a bad place of that. That's not, and try to reverse engineer. Why did they do that? Why did that occur? Are they misinterpreting it? Are people not understanding? And maybe a good way to go about it is like confronting that person at first and saying, like, what was that? Before running to an administrator and saying, what I saw, right? And dude, if that's the reputation you're getting, again, nobody is discouraging reporting things that need to be reported. The question is how often are you reporting things where you're starting to sound like a fucking baby? You know what I mean? And it's like any job. If I had somebody who worked here and constantly was telling on everybody here, I'd be fucking irritated too. Again, I'm not saying to not report things that are concerning, but like, and I don't want you to go into details, brother. I really don't, because but I saw John nodding off in a car. You're going to tell your sergeant that? Like, how about you say to John, like, yo, everything all right? Maybe John's fucking kid has cancer and he didn't tell you that. Or he worked this double shift the day before to cover for the guy whose kid has cancer. And like, his body is shutting down. Brother, there are times where I have worked 16, 18, 20 hours and I'm seeing double. And, if I nodded off, I remember I had a job one time. I was a cop in DC and you had to paper cases the next day. And I went from one station to another and I got no sleep. I went and ended up working 16. Dude, I was driving in the police car as a passenger. I could not stay awake. I was literally sleeping the whole time. I could not. I just couldn't believe this FTO was actually making me go to court. I was like, bro, I need to go home. He's like, you got to come to court. It's part of field training. I'm like, dude, I can't keep my eyes open. And like, I'm going into the courthouse. I'm sleeping on the bench. I can't stay awake, dude. I was up for like 36, 38 hours. And I'm a bitch with sleep. So for him to report me on that without knowing why it occurred would have been a real fucked up move. So I think always going to the person first, and maybe saying something like, hey man, I noticed that. Why did that occur? And if somebody says like, well, right? Like, and it was something small, minor, right? You just say like, brother, I'm not with it. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be a ball breaker, but like, I'm not with it. I want you to know that made me uncomfortable, whatever it may be. And again, don't go into details. If things are really that concerning, especially in a state like California, where I think it's probably the most transparent and cops are constantly scrutinized, you got to figure out what that is. Because, dude, I'm going to tell you, nobody likes somebody who's constantly tattletaling. Again, let me paint a very clear line of things that are 100% need to be reported, right? There are things that need to be reported, right? You see somebody do something that's completely ridiculous, that's got to get reported. Like you see a guy grab a $100 bill out of somebody's property and stick it in his fucking pocket, that's a problem, right? You see a dude now stopping, he's targeting females and trying to get their phone numbers, that's a problem. That's got to be addressed. But like a dude who took an extra 15 on a lunch break or something like that, or I don't know, maybe his adrenaline got the best of him in some situation, different. So you get to discern what those mean. You know what I mean? And again, I've got to walk a fine line of trying to give you good advice without giving fuel to the scrutiny of society. So I'm trying to be very, very clear on this. If somebody in this office that works for me, my 22 employees or 35 instructors, was constantly reporting everything that they saw, I tell my kids, they're like, oh, this one did this. And I'm like, don't be a fucking rat, right? Like, he cursed at me. I'm like, so what? Curse it back. Like, don't run and tell your dad. Because I can tell you what, my wife will say, well, you don't think it's a good thing? I go, what are they going to do when somebody picks on them in school? I always tell my kids, punch them in the face. Just go punch him in the fucking face. What are you telling me for? Because you can't run and come get me when you're 19 and you're and somebody's picking on you. You got to do something for yourself. You know what I mean? I want you to proceed very vaguely because I don't want there to be any kind of attention drawn. So go into some of the things. I want to resolve this question for you for sure. No question about it.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head with some of the first echelon of the more egregious situation and reporting. And so I reported one of those scenarios that you brought up. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I noticed that I wasn't able to get on SWAT as easy as the other guys. You know, I had to go through 4 or 5 different hoops, right? So I'm not saying that, I regret any of the decisions I made, but I don't go to the barbecues with everybody. I'm not everyone's best friend. You know, I go to work, I come home, I love everyone I work with. I love my shift. I've been voluntold to be a sergeant. So right now I'm a sergeant.
Yeah, so you have to communicate with people.
Yeah.
You got to stay constant communication. And I think a good conversation as a sergeant is, hey guys, I get mistakes happen, right? I get that if you're tired and you fucking, I get that, right? I'm going to address it the first time.
Yeah.
But if I see something that's illegal, so we had a guy came in, he got promoted, and this is a decent guy, but he didn't know what to fucking say. Does his first muster as a sergeant, comes in and goes, I'm not lying on the sword for anybody. If you fuck up, you're on your own. And I go, what a horrible thing to say to people, because when you lose trust as a leader, brother, you got to get that back. And you've got to be able to shift from we don't trust him to we do trust him. And that's through displays, because it can happen. You can do it. But you've got to show, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to show that you're a bad guy and you're on there if somebody's doing something bad, but you got to say, like, listen, there's got to be this. I always tell people, you got to let these people off the leash. You got to let them go out, let them make mistakes. It's part of growth. And you can't micromanage or have people scared that anything they do in front of you is going to end up on the plate at internal affairs, because you are going to literally go through a career where you'll be regarded as the biggest piece of shit, not because you were doing the right or wrong thing, because you didn't understand the difference between the right or wrong thing. And I want you to hear that loud and clear. And it says so much about you to have the humility to come on and ask that question, because I could see you're struggling with that. And I think that you have half of it right. And I think you have to pick and choose your battles. And anytime you see something, take a step back, breathe, and try to process with compassion, with recognizing what occurred here. Because I got to tell you, Isaac, I don't know. I worked a lot of years and I didn't see many things that would require me to report something. So if you're reporting things frequently, once is okay. If you're reporting things frequently, you're creating a reputation for yourself, and you're probably putting your administration in a bad spot as well. They're probably making them uncomfortable. I have this saying, and it goes a long way. And as a supervisor, I got to pass this on to you. When you leave, there's going to be 2 people that are always remembered. It was the best guy or girl that ever led us, the person we never want to see leave, and the biggest asshole that ever worked here. And you can't shake that reputation. And I knew who the people were when I started working at my last agency, because they still lived in town. And these guys would try to be tough guys with us, and they weren't even bosses anymore. And I would tell these guys, like, go fuck yourself, right? Like, you're not going to come talk to me. You don't even work here anymore. Who are you to talk to me? Hey, this is so-and-so. He used to be lieutenant at your agency. And I've heard so many stories of this guy, how horrible he was, how much of a pain in the ass this guy was. I've actually told these guys, like, I don't want to converse with you, dude. And that's probably wrong of me to say that, but there's got to be some truth when 19 people are telling the same stories about this person. But then you meet the guy or the girl who everybody loved, and you're like, oh shit, man, I've heard about you. I heard you were great and you covered everybody. And again, not in a criminal sense, but like, man, I'm so thankful I had so many bosses that actually gave me a second chance and just needed to say, hey, don't do that again. So I didn't recognize that it was wrong. I didn't mean for it to be or if I did it, I was trying to be cutesy and funny. And I hear you loud and clear. You can earn back the trust, dude, but you got to show it. And you've got to pick and choose your battles. And you can show it by merely showing up tomorrow at work and muster and saying it. Hey guys, I know my reputation. I recognize it. I've had a revelation. I know what I've been in the past. And, I kind of had a moment where I'm turning over a new leaf. I want you to be able to trust me. And then you got to show up, right? So it's not just saying it, it's then doing it and displaying it. And then that trust will gradually build, because you can come back from having a bad reputation. I promise that's real, but you gotta open your mouth and say it. And it takes a lot of balls, but what you could say to people is, I would like all of you to respect the fact that I recognize this, and I'm here to try to gain your trust back. And I'm going to prove it. I'm not going to just say it. But be very careful, because now that's your last ditch effort. You fuck that one up, you're not going to believe you ever again. And dude, like, it's not a good place to be. Let's face facts, dude. It's law enforcement. We're supposed to be righteous and all those things, but it's still a job. And if you worked at GM and somebody fucked up at GM and you started telling on every little thing, like this guy took an extra 15 minutes on his break, you'd be ostracized there too. The problem is we start to convolute it because it's law enforcement. We're supposed to be righteous, but dude, we're human beings. You know what I mean? Like, we're humans too. We're going to make mistakes. And there has to be some kind of, don't worry about the fucking media portrays or how you've been raised and da-da-da. Like, great, man. It's great to hear you have a good conscience and you want to always do the right thing. But doing the right thing has to be put through a test of what is the right thing.
Yeah. And then I appreciate you sharing that, because a lot of things that goes back to when you first started, when you answered Chris' question about doing the right thing, compassion and judgment. All those have been molding the conversation to where it is now. And a lot of my questions were, this happened years ago. Why is my reputation still kind of like the narc, the Mormon boy? You know, that's seriously how it is.
So you open your mouth and you say that to everybody. So people like in my office will come and say, you know, I got a problem with so-and-so, and I go, then why are you telling me? Tell her, tell him, go to them and tell them what you told me. They're like, I don't want to do it. I'm like, it doesn't matter what you want to do. Some of the hardest conversations in life are the best conversations. So dude, get it out there. Don't hide behind it. Don't let it follow you around. Have the conversation. Have it at muster. Hey, listen, guys, this is what happened, right? This is where I was at. And maybe if you were wrong and you think there was something wrong to it, even though you might think it's right, maybe say like, maybe I was right, maybe I was wrong. It's what I decided to do at the time. And, I just don't want you thinking that's who I am. And I'm going to prove to you guys that's not who I am. So saying things like that, man, brother, I had so many reputations. You know, I had so many regrets in my life, and they weren't the same that you have right now. But I had so many regrets. I mean, I think about, I'm a 40-year-old man now. I'm a father of 4. I'm a law enforcement thought leader, an influencer. I'm a leader here in the company. I'm all these things. And I think back on some of the things I did. I'm like, oh, fuck. I can't change what I did in the past, but I can show people who I am now. So people will say, oh, you don't drink like you used to. I go, yeah, it was kind of a problem for me if you didn't catch on to how I was fucking consuming alcohol. And I was not super proud of who I was during that time. And I'm not that person anymore. You know, I'm still a great guy and funny. You got me, da-da-da. But guys, I'm not the guy that's going to do 10 shots at you and play beer pong all night. Like, I'm 40 and I've got a lot of responsibility. So it takes time for people to start to respect you on that level. No bullshit. My parents, even my father. I mean, I remember saying to my father, it just, you know, they don't believe it till they see it. And I'll give you an example. I said, lived in a 2-family house not too long ago. And it was small. I owned it, but it was a good section of New Jersey. And, I was raking leaves with my father in the back. He was helping me. And this is when I used to do manual labor. And, I don't have time to do it anymore, but he said, I said, you know, we're thinking about buying another house. And he goes, oh yeah, when are you going to buy a house? I said, maybe next year. And he goes, next year? I go, yeah, I'm looking at these towns. I think I want to spend in this price range. He goes, next year, huh? Okay. I'll believe it when I see it. And I told my wife that. I said, you know what my father said to me? And, you know, man, I then proved it. And the following year, I bought a house that nobody in my family's ever owned. Nobody's ever owned a house that looked like this. And it was actually a little bit more than I like to level up. So I was kind of pushing the limits of where I was. And I purchased this house, and I'll never forget, like, they couldn't believe it. And now that kind of solidified how my father began to perceive me as not this drunk cop who's partying and fucking this and that and all these other crazy things. He started to respect what I was capable of doing and what I'd say I'd do. So it shifted, man. I didn't leave police work and become the renowned businessman that I am today, but now I am. It's through time. It's through showing that you've changed and you've evolved, you know?
Thank you for sharing that with me, because it kind of gives me faith in it. I think it's just the culture that I was taught as a leader, as coming into a leadership assignment. I don't want to be a sergeant. I'll be 1,000% honest. When I hear about, I pushed a patrol car for 25 years, that's awesome, because that's when the retirement kicks in. I'm excited.
I'm so proud of you for saying that. You know what I mean? Like, but here's the deal. You are a sergeant. So what can you do? You can support your men and women. And brother, that means like, hey, car 5, head over to this intersection for a bumper to bumper crash. And you're a sergeant, whatever I don't want to say your last name or anything. Sergeant so-and-so, I got that one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean? You're a super... Yeah, no. I can knock out a 15-minute accident report. I'll take... Joe, go do... I know you want to go out and stop cars today. I'll handle this for you. Brother, that is powerful stuff. Like, when you do things like that as a sergeant, because you know what some of these fuckheads I used to work for do? They would go out, stop cars, and go, send me a car over here to take this DWI. Like, bro, what the fuck I'm out here trying to do work. You're handing me fucking... We call them 4.5s, because the code is 450 in New Jersey under Title 39. You hand me a 4.5, bro? What the fuck you like? And like this dude's like, yeah, just do everything. Like you redo your SFSTs. I'm like, bro, don't find me fucking work. But those guys and girls who sat down in the ranks when they could. I get there's times as a supervisor you can't do that, but when you can do that, you do that, bro. Oh, forget it. Oh my, you just do things like that. You don't got to buy them pizza. Show up, be part of the team. If you have the time, I'll take one of those arrests. I'll take them. Show them who you are and what you do. You know what I mean? And they'll respect, like, hey, Isaac's a fucking great dude. Like, I know we had a big job tonight, but he was inside. You could tell him, guys, I would have done it with you. You know that? But I was inside to do this thing. But the next one, I'm with you. So, joining him and showing them you're still part of the team, and then doing the cleanup work. Don't show them that you can just, how to stop cars and find drugs. Show them that I'm coming back with you. We're cleaning the catch, and we're going to put in the freezer together. Right? That's power. Take some of those jobs. Yeah, whatever. I don't know what your call sign is. Bravo 1. I'll take that one. Bro,
yeah.
Brother, like I'm telling you, that stuff is. You're going to start getting a reputation like you wouldn't believe. Show up, but also let them know that stuff you can keep to yourself. But let them know, like, guys, I know I have this reputation. I want you to be comfortable knowing. I'm telling you, I'm not just going to fucking hang you out to dry. All right? I'm telling you, I've recognized why it happened this way. I want you to be comfortable with it. I'll prove it to you too. And I'm a man of my fucking word. Bro, the word is the word, bro. You know what I mean? Like,
fires me up. Sure.
Bro, like, we do things and people are like, I didn't actually think you were going to do that. I'm like, if I said I was going to do it, I'm fucking doing it. I'll volunteer for shit. I'm like, motherfucker, like, I got to go do this goddamn keynote. It's like fucking 5 hours away. What? But I told you I was going to be there. It could be, easily, right? Dennis Mew could say, sorry, man, I got to cancel on you a couple days before. My bad. I hope you find somebody. I'm busy. I didn't realize how busy I was. Nah. Hey, Dennis, I don't think that's, Dan, I don't think that's the best move for you tomorrow. We have a lot of things to do. It doesn't matter. I've committed to it. So if I commit to something, I'm showing up. That's the truth. When I say things like, you'll never see me pander to these fucking news organizations, I'm not gonna. But what I'm going to do is counter them. It's going to be a lot of fun. So we're putting together like 25 to 50 independent freelance writers. And so we'll actually get the real information out, not the bullshit these guys and girls are making up who are agenda driven. So we'll counter that stuff. I don't do an interview with you. You're a liar. We're not. And I can prove it. So you got to stand for what you believe in. You've got to back it up with the actions as well.
Sure. Yeah, it's taking it back to the fundamentals for me because, me being Polynesian, I think like I want to tell everyone I love them and stuff, but I'm going to work neutering myself saying, oh, this sergeant told me how to act, but, talking to you, other guys just said, play the politic game.
Fuck that.
Play the politics.
Fuck that.
And play politics. And so I think the first video I ever watched was Ivory Tower. I was like, okay, it's fucking cool. I like this company. This is a great company. Let's get them out the company.
It lines up with your soul, bro. You got to don't forget, bro. Think about when you're 80 years old and you're about to take your last fucking breath. Hopefully it's 106. But you've got to think about when you had an opportunity to do something great, how did you act? And you can act with your heart and soul and follow that. So if you love everybody as a Polynesian, go out and love everybody, bro. Like for real, and do haka and shit.
Yeah, come with it,
Yeah.
go. Right?
You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, be that guy for them that they need so desperately. You know what I mean? Like that's fucking, what an opportunity, Isaac. You don't have to be a sergeant because you are now. Be the fucking best sergeant you can be. You're in a great position to make some fucking amazing change, dude.
And that's what I told my wife, and she hates me doing this job, and I was like, I'm in a good spot now. I'm in a good spot. We can make a lot of change. She's like, don't be Superman. And it all comes back to
don't let her anxiety dictate who you're going to be. Unfortunately, you go, no, I won't be. You ever see that meme that says like what my mom thinks I do, what my friends think I do, what I really do?
Or the guy that gets the Zoom set up by his wife.
Bro, yeah. So, dude, my mother would ask me, I worked in DC. She'd be like, what'd you do this week? I'm like, I wrote a few parking tickets. I got a speeder once. I'm like, we were fucking on drive-bys and you know what I mean? So, dial it down for your wife. She doesn't have to know everything because it's not necessary. If you need to tell somebody something, get yourself a good therapist. And I actually have recommendations in California if you need to talk to somebody, but
Janice Price is who we use for our department. She comes in and she's world renowned is what I heard. She's a law enforcement psychologist and that's who we use. And Janice Price, if you look her up or whatnot, I don't know where you would find her.
Frankie's going to write that name down. Janice Price. And we're going to try to get her on the podcast on your recommendation. So man, hopefully I answered your question, brother. And I wish you the best. And I think you know what to do. And there's nothing better than grabbing 3 leadership books. I think you should pick them at random or even jumping on YouTube and putting in leadership. Let me suggest Simon Sinek.
Simon Sinek?
Yeah, it's Sinek. He has written some of the most, I think anything you find on YouTube with Simon Sinek talking is like listening to God is speaking to everybody through him. Jocko Willink, obviously Tom Rizzo, anybody but you got to watch. Just put that discretionary earphones on and say, is this what I line up with? This is speaking to my soul. But Sinek, you can't miss. If you listen to Sinek, he's got you, right? Like Sinek, I can put the blessing on it. Sinek, you can't fucking miss. So Dave,
my ear, who's going to lift the boats? David Goggins.
Yeah. That's right, dude. Anyway, hey man, I appreciate you, dude. Hopefully that gave you some peace, and it's awesome that you're Polynesian, bro. Because I fucking love Moana. It's my favorite Disney movie ever.
Now, if you want me to, call me whatever. But
yeah, bro, I love it, dude.
You're a celebrity to me because I've been following you for about a year. Got into the group, and once I was in, and I just started going. I got Red Ninja. You got all these great folks I want to see out in California. So definitely keep pushing with my admin. I'll keep pushing out here because that's what we need to see is definitely opening up our training program, not just letting the same 45 years on guy teach you about how to do traffic stuff.
I know, dude. By the way, like if they're not choosing you, choose yourself and show up, right, and go. And I'll give you a little secret about everybody who you think is a celebrity. We're just regular dudes. That's all. All of us. If you hung out with me, Kenny, and Tom, and every instructor at the Street Cop Training Party, go, oh, these dudes are cool. We're just good guys, right? And we're just regular guys. Like, I shit, I jerk off. I do all the same things you do. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm a friend, I'm a family member, I'm all those things. I'm no different than you. I just was fortunate enough to step into a position like this and recognize the need for it and answer the call because I thought I had what it took to do it. And I'm glad that I did. And I'll always be thankful that I'm doing what I'm doing.
Thank you for what you do because you didn't have an ulterior motive coming in here. And everything you're saying, that's what means so much to me. It's not like I'm telling another sergeant, hey, I'm struggling. And then I'm now a corporal, So that's what I have to be careful for is how much I opening up to you.
No.
So thank you.
And sometimes the answers you need don't lie within the walls that you work in, brother. You've got to go elsewhere and just seek outside influence and be an independent thinker. And Simon Sinek.
Simon Sinek.
Your homework today, Isaac, in exchange for this advice, is you're going to watch one Simon Sinek video. And I bet if you watch one Simon Sinek video, you'll probably watch 2. And I bet if you watch 2, next week you'll probably watch another one. Mark my words.
Copy that.
Yeah,
Will
man.
do. Thank
Pleasure meeting you, bro. I'll meet you in the future. I'm excited to meet you.
Yes, much love.
All right,
Take
dude. See you. Bye, everybody. Thanks for all of you for being here, and appreciate all of you tremendously. Without further ado, that is the completion of this podcast. We'll do more of these in the future. Look for these in the Facebook group for Street Cop Training, and we will pick 5 to 7 more people for the next podcast episode. See you guys.